and commend you on your bold initiative to improve the lives of the women.
As we count down to the December 7th general elections, your election headquarters is zooming in on women in some crucial constituencies. We call it Women, Power and Politics. And here we are today visiting the Tema Central constituency to meet the NDC's parliamentary candidate, Ebi Bright. With a voter population of over 60,000, incumbent Member of Parliament Kofi Brako won the seat in 2016 with 28,334 votes, representing 68.14%. And the NDC's Ebi Bright got less than half of this, 12,937, representing 31.11% of the votes. Ebi Bright, a development communicator, is in the race again this year. We've come to visit her in the constituency to find out how she is preparing for the December 7 polls.
I congratulate you and commend you on your bold initiative to improve the lives of the women.
Well, thank you for welcoming us into your constituency and taking us around.
I'm honored that you dropped in today, because I'm always proud to show my constituency off.
So why don't you start off by telling us about the Tema Central constituency and why you're so passionate about it?
Well, this is where I would say I grew up. I mean, before the age of 10, no, but since then, this essentially has been my home. And it's the place that I compare all others to, whether it's in Ghana or outside Ghana. So sometimes you go to more developed areas and you feel envy, and you're thinking, why can't home be like this? And then also the fact that at least growing up, this constituency was a lot plusher and a lot more solid than other places could claim to be, and I grew up on stories of its past glory, and somehow that engendered a passion and some challenge in me to contribute my bit to all that greatness. So yes, that's why.
There's a little bit of everything in your constituency, and I guess if you stop at a certain point, you think, oh, all is well.
Yeah.
It's nice.
Absolutely.
But that's not all. So explain the different parts of Tema Central to us.
Well, one of the reasons why I lured you here, as opposed to just, the plain nice streets that you probably went through on your way to us, is because we can't look realistically at development without looking at the truth of our situation. And a huge proportion of our demographics are housed in these areas. We're a constituency that's coming from a history of being employed, workers serving the heavy industrial area and light industrial area. Actually, where we stand right now is within our heavy industrial area. But before now, it used to be, I wouldn't say now, but for quite a while before now, we had a situation where there was a good relationship between the industries and the communities that housed their workers, and certain basic expectations for workers in Tema Central, about both their employment and their living conditions. But as we speak today, as you see, you look over there, there's this truck, which has obviously been driven by a resident of the area who is in the oil services, stream. But here again, this is where they live. So it's completely at odds with how Tema was conceived and how we continue to be perceived. And so it's important that as we make promises, for example, about opportunities, for example, I have something called the Right Opportunities Plan. where I'm promising innovations in education, job opportunities, startup businesses, and all of that. I can't do that honestly without taking account of what the reality is for most of the people that I'm promising. So this is one of the things. So I also have the right care plans. And for me, that's about the sanitation and the social environment, living conditions, care for the elderly and workers and all of that, job security and a lot of things, and that cannot happen in the vacuum of, bad living conditions. We have to see the density of populations here are a tax on existing health infrastructure, on existing road infrastructure, on sanitation, on sewage, and everything. So I don't think that there's been enough articulation about all these issues. And I am promising that they would be diagnosed properly. And that is why the plans that I have are actually realistic. So as opposed to just making promises, I'm also expressing the fact that I am in tune with the environment, and so my plans have been made, in deference to the environment.
I think sometime this year you wrote an article and you mentioned this super paper slum, which is one of 5 in your constituency.
Yes.
What's unique about the slums that you have in Tema Central, and what do you want to see changed about it? I know you've talked a bit about this specific area.
Yeah. Well, what is interesting about the slums is that increasingly a huge proportion of our demographics are housed here. Now, they, of course, obviously have not experienced the promise of Tema and Tema Central. So these are the people you have to carry along, not only from changing their circumstances, but from changing their mindset and their expectations before you're able to see a constituency that is broadly, progressive. So if you have such disparity and you're not able to carry along the minds and the ownership of people like this about a dream that is possible, they can't identify with it. And you would end up having an MP who is only representing the needs of only a small section of the constituency and not able to get buy-in from the rest. Now, my first set of plans actually is the right accountability plans. So the accountability is about that kind of transparency. And so you can't have accountability when you're not starting from the same place in the first place. And we have to carry these people along with us. So I think it's a responsibility for all of us who have experienced Tema Central in its shine to get these people to say, hey, look, trust me, this is not heaven yet. We did experience a bit of heaven. You've come to meet it at a point where it's not so good, but we need you to join us, to make sure that it actually gets to that place. Because I think that there's a lot of disappointment here. If this is Tema, if this is the Tema Central, of the stories, then it's hugely disappointing. Yeah.
Okay. So can you explain the different things, what makes Tema Central generally unique? What would we find or what would I find now that I'm in Tema Central?
Well, ordinarily it's the people. Unfortunately, we've been giving a bad deal over time. And here I'm challenging, on the national level, that Tema has really been giving a bad deal. What you would find are the people, the plethora of talents and skill sets that ordinarily will be here. And like I will go back in and again and say we failed them. We failed to tap into that. We failed to consistently engage that, and so that our people are no longer employable. What you would find is the heavy industrial area on one part of it, and interspersed with slums like this. And what you will find, and the heavy industrial area houses companies like Tor, Nestle, GTP, DVLA, where we have to drive our cars through, and you'll figure out how it is to actually get your brand new car to go and get registered in Tema. The steel companies, ferrofabric, there's a lot here, the heavy industrial area. Then we have the light industrial area, which is made up of fabricators, artisans, craftsmen, repairers. These are chiefly responsible for servicing the needs of the heavy industrial area and then the residences. So I don't really need to move out of Tema Central to get any kind of gadget repaired or to even have custom built, machinery, ordinarily, except of course with the failure that is becoming increasingly the case. Then you'll have the residence, which is beautifully lined streets with trees. Over time, we've lost a bit of that. We used to have a lot of green belt areas. Now we've filled up a lot of those and sold out. It's a crumbling social structure, but it still has a lot of evidence of its past glory. Also, what you will find are farmers. For example, behind where I live.
Do you have farmlands here?
Yes, we do. So the swamps and the Ramsar sites have usually been engaged, in a very interesting ecosystem where you have plants and animals just cohabiting and coexisting beautifully. So all those areas, we have award-winning farmers, national best onion farmer and the likes there, year after year. Increasingly, we're making them a bit more uncomfortable because, of course, we're selling off the lands that they would use ordinarily to produce this. So there's a lot to see in Tema Central. If you go around also, you'll see a few parks that are quite derelict at the moment. You will see courts for basketball, for games that we're just trying now to revive so that the social life, gets back on course. We used to have entertainment centers, clubs that are thriving. We have a few now. And I'm not really a club person, but hey, we're a port township, so we need to be able to offer, these kinds of entertainments so that the workers here, the residents here find leisure and rest, which is an important part of working also. And that the promise that Tema has in terms of its port, in terms of the exports and imports and all the companies that we house, can actually plow the money back into the community. Also, what we'll have is several education centers. The tertiary institutions are springing up. We have quite a few now, about 5 of them. We could do with more. But you have, basic schools. Education used to be top notch here, except that the facilities are run down. So what you have is a lot of past glory and a lot of promise. Yeah.
Tell us where you're taking us next.
Well, I think that we'll make our way down from the Super Paper area. We'll make our way down to DVLA, just so you travel with us. The promise of, offering the service of registering your cars and all of that, and in comfort.
I want to say I can't wait, but I have a feeling that I should wait actually.
Well, I think that you should wait. Tema Central is hopefully about to, produce an MP who is very concerned about Tema and Tema Central. Sorry, another thing I need to point out is that you can't discuss Tema Central in isolation of Tema. Okay, for demographics and population purposes, we keep getting cut up into smaller bits. But if you realize the landmass is not so big, but we're densely populated. And so everything that concerns Tema Central inadvertently concerns Tema in general, and then Ghana, because a lot of the services that we provide, and just by our being, we essentially are the pulse of the nation's economy.
I congratulate you and commend you on your bold initiative to improve the lives of the women.
This is the hub of what exactly?
Well, this is the hub of the artisans. And this whole area is typified by outputs such as we have just to our left, where you have Master Kofi Rescue, for example, who actually fabricates ovens. I mean, these are ovens that are used by the bakers within this country and are actually exported to neighboring countries. So it's huge business, but in a very small and undervalued area. You have manufacturers like Everpure and, many other light manufacturers, the repairers. I mean, you have a Boso kind for spare parts, but the work for repairing of cars, including salvaged vehicles that have actually helped a lot of us, over time, is done here in this industrial area. So that's why for me, when I talk about education opportunities under my Right Opportunities plans, I'm envisioning a situation where we're able to train people here, technical and vocational skills. Not only, for example, on the national level, my party has in their manifesto, technical and vocational education being free at the secondary, and tertiary levels. But also we have NAP, which is a National Apprenticeship Program, where for an area such as this, the promise and the opportunity is the fact that for young people desirous of learning to work with their hands in a profitable way like this, number one, their apprenticeship fees are paid. There's an incentive given to their masters to actually train them. They're giving an allowance to support them, because most of the challenges with learning a trade, as we have discovered, is that we're not able to even support ourselves as we, journey back and forth to work and all of that. And then beyond that, also the promise of tax cuts and breaks for small businesses and startups. And on a local level in Tema Central, I was already envisioning on putting a significant amount of attention and galvanizing the community support for startups and small businesses for our youth, because increasingly you have the residents aging, being on retirement, and as our social structure is at the moment, we're very dependent on the younger generation to support us. But if you have an aging population and the younger ones don't have employment, then that is a challenge. So you're looking at a situation where residents, the younger generation, are encouraged to stay here because there's now work opportunities here. And that will come if we revive the essence of places like our light industrial area. So if you look around, I'm sure that you will notice that we don't have as much infrastructure and amenities as we should, but there's also a lot of opportunities if we're able to give them the boost for starting small businesses. Tax cuts, income tax, no income tax for the first year or so for small businesses to medium scale businesses and all of those things. Then we're encouraging entrepreneurship. Now, entrepreneurship not necessarily being one-man businesses, but businesses that employ others. So we're looking readily at this job explosion, for young people, So this is what I'm envisioning. And we're starting to do the hard work, because the more we engage the community and the people that provide training, the more we understand how to guide career choices, the more we understand how to recruit even the people that we're training, the more we engage, the more of the necessary components we put into our grand plan to support that kind of education.
Great. I congratulate you and commend you on your bold initiative to improve the lives of the women.
So are there challenges in this race, particularly because you're a woman?
Oh, most definitely. But we're at a place in our democracy right now where there have been enough examples before us and enough experience to be abreast with the reality of a situation. So it's not a game for people that are not serious and are not willing to pay the price, to get into at this moment. And so, like I said, there's been enough experience. A lot of the challenges are a bit old. They might not necessarily be less painful, but you expect them more, and you are supposed to have developed not only a network of support to manage them, but also the skills to be able to either focus specifically on what it is that you're about and ignore or find ways to get the society to grow along with you, as you know, regards horrible things like that. I say horrible because some of them are really horrible. Having said that, I would say that it's a lot better here than in many places. You have to give credit where credit is due. I'm standing for a political party, for example, which is going to give us a female vice president. This is a first, but look how far away from that woman I am in terms of footsteps. So if people like her have come before, you can't be making excuses today. Having said that, there's a lot more work also for those of us involved in politics to do. In shifting the conversation away from these difficulties into, you know, the strengths and the victories that we continue to chalk day in, day out. It will be easier for people to insist that I'm an airhead who is probably trading my body, you know, for politics. It would be easier if I wasn't engaging the issues. And so the more that I concentrate on the issues and they resonate with them, the more the issues connect with the people, the more silent those nonsense, so to speak, will be. Also, you have to reach deep inside every now and then for the core things that got you involved in this in the first place. And if it's coming from a point of pure passion and determination, you know, almost a madness to see things change or to represent your community, then most often than not, that overrides the difficulties. Yeah.
Okay. You were in the race in 2016. You
Yes.
couldn't make it even though you gave your party some significant amount of votes.
Yeah.
You were not so sure if you're going to go for the 2020 ticket. I wonder what changed.
Well, I was actually almost decided that I wasn't going to go. It wasn't even uncertainty. Yeah! It wasn't uncertainty. It was because I wasn't sure if the price I was paying was fair to the people around me. Number one, to my family, to my friends. You know, it's one thing to argue when they're only insulting you, calling you all the unprintable names that they call women, and people are uncomfortable with that. Your family doesn't want to see you go through that. You can prove that you're strong enough, but when there's bodily harm, when there's threats to your life, when you go through certain things that seem like they're not worth it, then those are the things that made me decide in their interests, not even in mine. By the time you're making a decision to do what you're doing, there's enough example to show that it can be risky and your life is at stake. But increasingly, you don't want to involve other people in it. Just like what has happened to me recently, just a few days ago. I had received threats before, but you're still thinking it's under control. You're not thinking that people will endanger other innocent people. I'm innocent.
Why would anybody want to threaten you?
Well, I'm innocent.
This is a race.
Yes, I'm innocent because I'm purely this because I want to serve. But that's an innocence that I am convinced of, and I have to convince you of. Because politics didn't start with me in this country. We've seen how it's been characterized by, you know, some violence and insecurity. So I'm not going to talk as if I'm a pioneer in that area. However, you're thinking that the risk is only to you. And when you're the only one to worry about, it's easier to take it for granted. Right now, I'm a new mother. My son is only 3 months old. It gives you cause to pause. You know, the fire incident in my house just a few days ago.
How did that happen?
We're not sure. The police and the fire service haven't released, a conclusive report on it yet, so I'm hesitant to talk. But it does smell fishy, and thinking that many more lives than mine were at stake. Not even that of my family alone, but the possibility of harming my neighbors who have not engaged in a social contract, you know, with Tama Central or with Ghana. Those kinds of things give you pause, and this is the price.
Because these are vehicles that you use for your campaign.
Well, I use for my life. At the moment, there's one thing, politics, if you do it the way that we do it here, can actually make you quite poor. But then again, you know, you're rich in the social, how would I say, you know, in the goodwill. The car, for example, the Mercedes-Benz GL 450 belongs to my brother, my elder brother. And, you know, he wouldn't ordinarily have given it to me, but for the fact that I have his nephew, whom I have to also take to hospital, and the fact that I'm moving all around, they're concerned for a certain level of comfort and safety for me. The other small car is for my assistant, David. You know, it's not like the nicest car, but we call it his Lamborghini because he loves it.
But vehicles in good condition.
Oh, absolutely. Both in very good condition, except for the fact that over the past couple of months or so, the tires on the Mercedes, which is what I am driving, you know, up and down, has been slashed, you know, yeah, about three times in total. You go out, I mean, you're not even sure where anything happens. When you feel the effect and you say, okay, tires down, because the car is quite sophisticated. It tells you that your tire pressure is low. You try and get where it's safe to park, and then you figure out what is going on. You know, it's terrible. I've had to change. That is expensive. I'm thinking about it. I can't continue buying for thousands of cedis one tire on a big car, you know, when you're running this. And then we changed the tires, all the 4 tires, just just over a week ago, because of the same problem. It's becoming too much. You know, yes. So
and
these are
suddenly, overnight, it just got bent.
Well, yeah, we got home about 11, which is earlier. Usually, I'll be getting home about 2:45 to 3 a.m., which is the time that the incident actually occurred. But this night, because we had fundraisers, it was all a very sophisticated day. So we got home around 11. And, you know, my son won't sleep, but that's because he has me at that time. It was understandable. I was tired. But we're just in there after the the rain was about 1 a.m. All that was over. About 2:45 a.m. you hear this big blast. Pooh! Pooh! I mean, it can't be my house. There's nothing, no guns or anything are going to be going off from my house. So if you can ignore, you ignore. Just a few minutes, you realize the trouble is home, you know, and then you're focused on getting these people that you love and you owe protection, you know, out. And you're thinking this wouldn't happen if, if it's just regular me, you know, so. Did
it make you want to change your mind about this whole politics?
No, it's making me regret the fact that I'm not sure what is available to me to protect the people I love. We can't turn back now. If there's one thing I'm convinced about, is how much of the aspirations of the people I actually carry with me. My plans have been developed from a lot of hard work that a lot of people have put in. There are plans that have been developed from listening to the constituency, number one. So a lot more than 2016, this elections for me has a lot more investment in terms of the human resource, the minds, the aspirations, the emotions of people. And I don't have any excuse, because people that are supporting me, that are following me, have showed remarkable strength. And they've also proven to be very understanding of the way I look at things. So ordinarily, you'll hear pockets of people saying, we're going to retaliate, because they're sure that it's your opposition. And they've been tearing your posters, and they've been slashing your banners, and your billboards. So now they're convinced that they've gone a bit too far. They're going to retaliate. But all in all, I think that most of the people that support me understand that that is not the way that I handle things, and that they need to make an effort to be tolerant, and they need to press on to do things the right way. It's been a long journey, but I'm confident in the trajectory that I've decided to go as far as my politics is concerned. It might not be the usual route. It might shake up the status quo a little bit, so it might be tougher than it could be, but this is the only way that I will do it.
You're a fresh mother?
Yes.
But you're hoping that this time around you make it to Parliament.
Absolutely.
The 8th Parliament in 2021. What difference would a woman make in this constituency?
Well, it's not only a woman, but what kind of woman? If we just had a woman standing here, I would be concerned about what this woman is thinking for the constituency. What kinds of relationships does she have with the constituency? In what way has she engaged the constituency? What is she interested in the first place? And what are her attributes that will make her, you know, a good advocate and a good servant of this constituency? And so these are the questions that I've had to ask first of myself as a person, before as myself as a woman. Now, as a woman, added things like security. Like I say, youth has a funny way of making you take a few things for granted. You know, we're a bit foolhardy, and we're probably not as patient as we should be. You're a mother now to a 3-month-old who is demanding what logic shouldn't be demanding at certain times. It's inconvenient. I'm training every day. I'm becoming better at managing inconveniences. I'm becoming better at cutting my losses on you know, what is fantastic, and getting down to the dirty business of just cleaning things up. And I'm getting more realistic in my outlook, more patient, and more encouraged, because I mean, in 3 months, the growth of my son is proof that, I mean, we can achieve a lot in 3 months. I'm more encouraged. Also, women by nature are more homebound. You know, I say this because I hardly am able to look a lot outside Tema Central in terms of what I'm interested in. Even when I go out, everything is in comparison, and I'm thinking how we can do this here as well, or how much better we are. So that natural, you know, those natural attributes of being a woman, you know, I think they come into play, and they will give the constituency a better deal. Okay. Yeah, also there's a trust factor, because we're always bringing things home for women. We're not very interested in exploring and exploiting, in French we say ailleurs, I mean elsewhere. You know, everything about us is home. And so for me, Tema Central is home, and so I'm giving my all to home.
Great. Just finally,
I congratulate you and commend you on your bold initiative to improve the lives of the women